Hi, this is Kathy from Gadgets Top 321, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing the fountain pens that I will be taking with me to the 2024 St. Louis Pen Show. The show runs from June the 20th to the 23rd. The 20th is a Trader Day. That's on a Thursday, and I'm not sure what time I will be arriving on that day. I'll be setting up that day. I'm not really sure how the Trader Day works, but my sister and I will be manning a table on Friday and Saturday, the 21st and the 22nd, and I'll have these fountain pens as well as some non-fountain pen pens and some pencils, maybe some notebooks and other stationery items. But today I'm just going to go over real quickly the pens. I'm going to try to go through this kind of fast, and I'll also list in the description each one of these pens so you can refer back to it. I'm going to begin with my Pilot pens, and all my pens that I show in a box here will come with the box. The first pen I'm showing is my Pilot Stargazer. It's a little small pen, snap cap with a number 3 size 14 karat rhodium plated medium nib. It's a metal pen, a lacquer coated metal pen. This one is blue. My lighting's not the best right now, but the finials are, it's hard to tell here, but they're a dark blue, a little bit darker than the lacquer on the pen. The snap cap has a nice snap to it. And this is a cartridge converter pen, and it comes with the converter. Next, I've got my E95S. This has a friction fit slip cap that operates really smoothly. It's got a 14 karat fine nib. Now these E95S nibs, at least mine, writes a little more broad than my other Pilot 14 karat nibs. And I've heard that from other people, so I think that's true at least of the fine nibs. It's also a cartridge converter pen, and it comes with the converter. This one has a nice plastic box, and it's the Custom Heritage 91. This is a cartridge converter pen. Now it's marked fine on the tag. I bought this secondhand from someone on eBay. They may have switched nibs or just put it in the wrong box when they sent it to me, but this is a number 5 size 14 karat medium nib. It's rhodium plated. Unlike the Custom Heritage 92, this is a cartridge converter pen, and I'm including the Con 70 converter that I bought to go with this. Like, I think usually if you buy these from Japan, they don't come with the converter, I think. But anyway, I'm including the new style of Con 70 with this one. Another one of those nice plastic boxes. Lucina. Yeah. This is a broad nib. Another threaded cap. Now this is a steel nib. This is larger than the steel nibs that you get on like a Prera or a Metropolitan. And I feel like this larger nib has a little bit of bounce to it. I've always liked this, and it will come with the converter. I apologize, my cat is meowing outside my door. And this is another Lucina. This one has a fine nib, and it's yellow. And it also has a cartridge with it and the same converter inside. Nice box. This is my Custom 74 with a fine nib, and I'll include the Con 70 converter with the silver finish. It kind of matches the silver colored trim. This has a number 5 size 14 karat fine nib. I believe this was my first pilot pen, my first pilot fine nib that really wowed me. My first pilot Prera with a fine stainless steel nib, and it will include the converter. And the Prera is known for that very satisfying snap cap. And I'll also include this cartridge. Okay, and I think these three are all Pilot Explorers. I have a silver one with a fine nib. These have that same style of nib that the Prera has, the little stainless steel nib. This one has a fine, and it doesn't, let me see. Yeah, it does include a converter, the little squeeze kind, and a cartridge. The copper has a medium nib, and the gold also has a medium nib. I really like these medium nibs for writing on poor quality paper. Like, I liked these for writing on Filofax paper. Let's see, this is a Metropolitan, and I stopped using it because I think the section was leaking. But what I will probably do with this one is, if someone buys one of the Explorers or maybe one of these 78Gs, you can have this if you want it, because the sections are interchangeable. Now, I take that back. I don't know if this section is interchangeable with the Explorer. We can check it if that's something you're interested in. But I know this section is interchangeable with the 78G. So you could swap out parts and, you know, whatever you would want to do with it if you want something like this. It has a cartridge with it. And a nice little case. All right, and I have 4 78G pluses. I've got the Demonstrator. All of these have gold trim. So I've got the Demonstrator with the medium nib, and it's got the converter with it. The blue has a fine nib. It also has a converter. The green has an extra fine nib with a converter. Now, I said this has a converter, but I don't hear the little balls rattling. I bet it has a squeeze converter. Yeah. And I've got 2 of the original 78Gs. They just come in little plastic sleeves. Let's see. This is the red. Hold on. It said the red had a medium. But yeah, the red's a broad. And this is another one that if you buy a 78G, I may just give you this one for free, because if you want this, because I've had trouble with this nib being very dry. It was scratchy. I had to smooth it, but even after I smoothed it, it was very dry. It needs some work on the nib to make it a little wetter. And I just never put the time in, because I have a CM nib that is basically a stub and that I used instead. But the Teal... Oh, the Teal was the one that had the broad nib, but I swapped the two because I actually liked the Teal pen and used it. So I might swap those back. I don't know. We can mix and match nibs if there's one color pen that you want and you want to swap a nib. We could probably do that. And these two don't have converters with them. I may look around and see if I can find some, or just include a cartridge with it. And I've got a Pilot Kakuno with an extra fine nib. This one, I don't have a converter with it, but it has a cartridge. I've got a few golden nib pilot pens that don't have any packaging or boxes or anything. I've got 2 different models of the pilot Grance. They look similar but have different style nibs. This marble, kind of a marble gray model has a ball clip. They both have snap caps, and one thing that's similar about both of these that they have in common is to snap it open doesn't take very much pressure at all, but to snap it closed, it feels like it takes a little more pressure. I would prefer it to be the opposite of that. It feels like it comes open a little more easily than I would like it to. But I believe these are number 3 size nibs. They're kind of small. And this marble gray has a medium nib. They're 14 karat medium. That one's a 14 karat medium nib. Silver hardware and rhodium plated nib. This one's kind of a pale blue. A more, I don't know, I guess you would call that a more modern clip. Same thing, pops open fairly easily. And this one is a 14 karat fine nib, rhodium plated to match the silver hardware. I've got 2 Pilot Custom 98s. I've got a red one, a snap cap. This has a similar snap cap to like the Prera and the Grance. In fact, the rest of these pens are about the same size as the Prera. Did I say Grance? The Prera and the Stargazer. They're the little snap cap pens. These Custom 98s have rounded finials. I really like these. They've got the small little number 3 size nib. This red one has a medium nib. The green Custom 98 has a number 3 size 14 karat fine nib. Both of these write really nicely. And these 2 are wood pens. The wood is resin infused, so they're nice and durable. It's not like a wood pen that's going to crack and split open. These are the Legno model, and the black one feels a little more like it feels like resin. The red one, or like the cherry finish, feels more porous, feels more like wood. Again, like the Grants, they're both snap caps, and they've got the number 3 size nib. This one is a fine nib. Now, this one was in pretty bad shape when I got it, and I've done quite a bit of work on it, and I really like the way it writes now. It's got some softness to it, and I really enjoy writing with it. I haven't written with the red one as much. It feels more rigid. I don't really feel the bounciness to it, and I haven't used as many inks with it. I don't have as much experience with it. I did try to ink it up with Colorverse Dark Energy, which is a very saturated ink, and I find that it tends to dry out and hard start fairly easily, and it did in this pen, but I don't know if that's going to be a characteristic of all inks with this pen, though. I didn't mention all of these pens are cartridge converter pens, and all of these smaller pens include a converter. Now, I think let me check the black one. Like, you can hear the little balls rattling around. But the black one sounded a little different. It might have that older style. I think maybe a Con 50. Yeah, it has the older style, which people tend to like the older style more. I think people have trouble getting a full fill with the newer Con 40. I think that one is the one with the little beads. I usually fill them with a syringe so I can get a full fill every time. Now, these 2 Grance do not have, I don't have converters for them. I'll probably include an ink cartridge, or I might, you know, make it a first come, first serve thing. Whoever wants to buy a pen first, whoever gets there first, they can have a choice of a converter or an ink cartridge. That's probably what I'll do. But if you want a converter for this one, it has to use one of the smaller ones, either the Con 40 or the little squeeze converter. I've got a Pilot Pluminix, just a mini Plumix, which it has a really neat nib on it. It says fine, but if you look at that, that's a stub nib. There's no tipping on it. It's kind of like the fine version of the CM nib, and I really liked this nib because I like fine nibs, and I like my stubs to be pretty fine. I also have the Pilot Petite one. It's got a used cartridge in it, but I also have a package of cartridges. This little nib on this little stainless steel nib is the same nib that is on, what are those called? The varsity pens, and there's some bounciness to this. I enjoyed using this with some of those inks like Sailor 123 and those kind of inks, the pale dual shading inks. This little pen works nicely with those, but I don't have any packaging for these. Okay, now we're to the Sailor pens. And this one is Pro Gear Slim. And it has a 14 karat fine nib, rhodium plated. All the hardware is silver colored, and I've got a converter in here. And there's also a couple cartridges in here. Next, I've got a Sailor 1911 standard size. Again, I've got a couple cartridges under here. Yeah. And this pen has gold hardware and a gold colored 14 karat medium nib on these Sailor pens. It's a hard medium. The designation, the nib size is on the side. I know I'm going through these kind of quickly and not saying much about them. Each of these pens, it's been a tough decision to decide to sell them. They're great writing pens. They're fantastic, enjoyable to use. It's just that my tastes have really narrowed down, and I enjoy using all of these pens that I've showed so far. It's just that I have a few pens that I just enjoy using more and would rather use them full time. These boxes aren't marked on the outside, so I'll just have to see as I open them. Okay, this one is a Pro Color 500. It has a steel fine nib, and it is a joy to use. It's the same enjoyable writing experience as the gold nibs. Now on this one, I have to disclose that I dropped this nib first on the ground at school, and it kind of mangled up the nib, but I was able to fix it myself. It writes a little bit more broad. You see there it says fine. It writes a little more broad than it did initially, but it's a very pleasant writing experience. And I'll have a bottle of ink there at my table that if you want to dip test any of these pens, you are welcome to do it. Let's see. Okay. Oh, this one's a tough one to let go. This is the Pro Gear Slim Mini. It's got that beautiful sparkly, kind of pearly, sparkly blue finish. 14 karat medium fine, and it includes, it's a cartridge converter pen, but I don't know if I have a converter for this. I'm gonna have to go back and check. Maybe I'll have to double check. Maybe I just inked up an empty, I think I just syringe filled an empty cartridge. This will take a cartridge, or you have to buy a specific mini converter. The regular sailor converters are too long for this mini size pen. Okay, I could not find a cartridge, a package of cartridges, so I've got an unused, or a used cartridge that can be syringe filled. I'll toss that in there, but you'll need a cartridge for this one, or that mini converter. Next, I've got, and this has the box and the sleeve for it, the Lecoule. And it has the same dimensions as the Pro Gear. Like, you can mix and match sections and parts. Let's see. Yeah, this one has just a used cartridge with it that I would always syringe fill. Okay, now we're taking a look at my platinum pens. It's got the squishy top clamshell box. This one is it's the kind of translucent. I'll put in the description. I get mixed up which one is which. One's called the black on black, and one is, I think, called something else. This one has the 14 karat medium nib, the silver colored trim, and the rhodium plating on the nib. And I've got the silver colored converter. And finally, I've got my last platinum pen here, and I think I'm gonna stop this video after this pen and do a second video with the remaining fountain pens. This video will be all of my Japanese fountain pens. This one is the opaque black, yeah, and it has the 14 karat fine nib with the gold trim, and it has the gold converter with it. Okay, just a reminder, in the description I will have a list of all the pens that I just showed in this video, and I'll have a second video with the remaining fountain pens. And if it's not too much trouble, in the description, in the list of pens, I will link videos that I've made for each of those pens that I've talked about in this video.